Welcome to Age Potential TV. I'm Lori Campbell, your host, gerontologist, and advocate of your best life, here to introduce you to an emerging trend called Age Potential. Here's to living out your age potential. Welcome to another episode of Age Potential TV. The notion that older adults might be abusing or addicted to alcohol, illicit drugs, or prescription medications may strike some as improbable. After all, the common notion is that alcohol and substance abuse are for young people. The truth is, 78 million American baby boomers are heading into their retirement with more than their considerable wealth, health, and education. According to the Institute of Medicine, they are also bringing into their golden years an epidemic of drug and alcohol abuse and mental illness that has yet to be recognized. Here to discuss this important topic is addiction counselor and coach, Mel Scholl. Welcome, Mel.
Thank you, Lori. I'm delighted to be here.
You know both sides of this issue. Give us some insight on your own personal recovery journey and how that led you to becoming an addiction counselor and coach.
Well, I became addicted to alcohol years ago, and in September of 2002, I had an incident where I left my dog outside all night because I was inebriated, and the next morning I realized he potentially could have died if I had if it had been December or January and not in September. So that day was a real turning point for me, and I went 180 degrees, and I went into treatment, and 2 years later I began mentoring women in an inpatient treatment center, and I discovered by observing the counselors there that that's work I really wanted to do. And so at the age of 53, I went back to school and became an addiction counselor. And it truly is my passion and what I love to do. And then several years later, I went and became certified as an empowerment life coach as well. So I can serve women who are also dealing with other issues besides addiction.
Wonderful. Well, how does your approach to sobriety and healing differ from more traditional addiction programs?
Yes. Well, I offer an alternative non-12-step program, which means I approach it from a holistic approach, and we look at issues of shame and guilt, self-esteem and trauma. I will work with a woman assessing her needs specifically and put together a specific treatment plan for her. Each person comes to me, I identify where they are on their healing journey so that I can respect that. I also encourage people to find outside support, be it Women for Sobriety or their churches or other growth groups.
So do you believe that addiction is genetically based? And if so, why doesn't every family member become addicted, if so?
That's interesting. In my family, myself and my brother became addicted, but my sister did not. They have not really identified a specific gene per se yet, but there's a tendency in families. Is it genetic or is it environmental? The other thing that I observe is that young people can go off to college, and some will drink a lot and not become addicted, and some will drink a lot and become addicted. So if there are influences in your life, such as familial addictions or environmental situations, people can become addicted that way. And for me, it was long periods of time of drinking, and there is familial history as well.
Well, because we know the trends of older adults, I mean, this is more becoming in this demographic. Are you experiencing an influx of older adults in your coaching practice? And then what are the demographics of your clientele?
The demographics of my clientele are actually 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I've worked with numbers of women in their 50s who are dealing with addiction issues, and also that group of people in the empowerment coaching as well, because it's a transitional time for women, empty nesters, changing careers, divorce, and many dealing with drugs or alcohol substance abuse. There's a big uptick in women using prescription medication off prescription and becoming addicted to opiates and pain meds.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Brunei Brown, but she's a researcher and author of the recent book called Daring Greatly. And I'm going to share a quote of hers, and I quote, "Vulnerability is the core, the heart, the center of meaningful human experiences," end quote. Do you agree with this, Mel? And is vulnerability the antidote to addiction?
Brené's amazing. I've had the opportunity to meet her several times. Yeah, she is really, she's the real deal. She's spot on. And I believe very much in what she talks about as far as vulnerability. She says, and I agree, that we as humans, our main desire is to connect with each other. And when we are in our place of shame, we are not vulnerable and we don't connect on a deeper level. And that leads people to use drugs and alcohol as a coping mechanism because of their feeling of not being connected to each other.
Well, Brunei actually has 3 points that she feels encompasses vulnerability. She names risk, uncertainty, and emotional exposure.
I couldn't agree more. As you can imagine, when someone is in their shame place, they don't want to expose any of those. But in order to live wholeheartedly, as she talks about, we have to be willing to be vulnerable and to express our emotional side. Otherwise, we keep ourselves hidden and we can't share with each other. And so it really keeps us from living a wholehearted life.
Right, right. Well, she talks about taking off our masks and embracing our truth. I think those are profound words, aren't they?
Very powerful.
Hard to live, hard to live. What would be the first step? If someone's feeling down and in that place, what would be the first small step they could take towards embracing that wholehearted living?
That's a good question. It would be the tiniest thing. You know, when I work with people, I talk about baby steps, taking little tiny steps and being able to applaud yourself. For some people, it's just going into a new place that they've never been before and talking to people that they've never talked to before. It doesn't have to be a huge jump off the cliff.
How would someone, you know, if they're ready to talk about this, ready to do something, how would they go about that process to find somebody?
Well, what I would suggest is do your research, find somebody that someone else has used. You know, reference is really a good thing to do. Again, I offer 30 minutes free to anybody that wants to even just come and have a conversation about their concerns about abuse. That can be very helpful for somebody to just have a conversation about it.
Absolutely, to see if you resonate with that person. Let's talk strategy for prevention. Can you offer the viewers 2 or 3 options other than going to alcohol or drugs to address their situation or pain that they're in?
Well, certainly connecting with other people, finding other coping mechanisms, obviously exercise, eating well. Those are ways that people can avoid getting, you know, connected to drugs and alcohol. When I work with somebody, I really encourage them to even come and have a conversation with me, because people can be abusing substances before they become addicted, and if they can halt it while they're abusing, they can live a much happier life before they get into the addicted stage.
If we just allow ourselves to be open.
Absolutely.
Right, right. Well, how does this all affect the aging process, do you think?
Well, it has a tremendous effect on the aging process because drugs and alcohol affect all organs of the body, and particularly memory and heart, and as everyone knows with alcohol, liver. So going into your older age, it can really be detrimental.
And compounding with medications people are on, and we metabolize alcohol differently as we age. And we know this really leads into the biological age. I mean, excessive anything, especially alcohol or drugs, it really affects us down to our cellular level.
Absolutely. It completely does, yes.
It does. So our time is coming to an end. And I would just love for you to share some warning signs for family members and caretakers, what they should look for in maybe a loved one or someone that they're taking care of that they may be abusing alcohol?
Well, obviously, change in behavior, people maybe becoming angry out of context, being more isolated. Those of us that were in active addiction, we become very isolated. We don't want to engage with other people. So changes in behavior and isolation and that type of thing would be good things to look for.
Okay, okay. And so do you find that people, especially women, are more isolated at-home drinkers?
Yes.
They are.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Well,
and particularly older women.
Okay. Well, thank you for that insight. Great information. Thank you, Mel, for your time.
Thank you.
Addiction is not discriminating. It touches people of all genders, ages, and encompasses all ethnic backgrounds. Using alcohol and drugs to relieve stress or as a coping mechanism is dangerous. We best heed the warning.